Good evening, exiles. I recently saw a post on Facebook about everyday carry first aid kits, and in the post he just said EDC IFAKs, so everyday carry individual first aid kits. It caused some people some confusion. So this is the one I made. This is my actual everyday carry first aid kit. I'll explain here in a second how I carry this every day, because that's too big to fit in a pocket. And this is a bare fat IFAK from Refuge Medical. If I was buying a first aid kit, this is the one I'd buy every time. That's why we have two of these. And the way I carry this every day is in my everyday carry backpack. The big pocket carries my first aid kit and my YouTube stuff. The little pocket carries some other doodads and stuff I use. I don't carry this on my person everywhere I go, like a purse. It stays in the car, stays on my table at work. But I'll do a whole video on what I carry on my person, and I'll do another video on my everyday carry backpack. Do a whole little series on everyday carry stuff. But anyway, back to the first aid kits. So I'm going to go through everything in this one. Then I'll dig into this one. So, first off, this is kits designed to set in like the small of the back. It has Velcro, scratchy side on this side, and then as a carrier that I don't have with me, that goes on like a battle belt or a backpack or something like that. So it goes in the small of your back when you're using it like that. I use it a lot of times if I'm running the chainsaw or doing stuff like that. So you can reach it with either hand to get out your first aid kit. So within the small of the back, you get the idea. And then on the bottom of it, in these elastic loops, that is a one-handed operated cat tourniquet. If you're going to buy them, make sure you buy a real North American Rescue cat tourniquet. There's a lot of knockoff ones. You want a real one. They're not that expensive. But, we're going to be switching over time to the rat T, because the cat has this piece of plastic on the bottom of it. So if you try to put this on a small kid, that piece of plastic won't bend around their arm or leg enough to be able to stop the bleeding, which is why we're going to switch everything to rat T's over time, but we don't have any yet. That's just on our to-do list. So then we'll open this up and dive into it. So right off the bat, these are cheap little Walmart sells them $1 headlamps. They're even kind of adjustable angle, because doing first aid in the dark would really suck. But they're $1 and they don't take up much room. If I ever use it, I would just throw it in another bag and use it as a spare one and buy another one to replace that. Oh wait, I know the batteries are good in it. Just a roll of elastic gauze. Good for wrapping around all kinds of wounds, wound packing. I'm not going to go into all the details on how everything works. I'll probably do another video later on how all the parts of first aid kits work. This is a 4-inch Rayleigh Bandage. Some people carry a 6-inch one. This small kit, a 4-inch one, works great. Rayleigh Bandage, if you don't know, is used for large wounds on the outside of the body, arms and legs, that don't require a tourniquet. These are hyphen chest seals. These are the mini ones, because the mini ones fit in this kit. They're for puncture wounds to the chest, a gunshot wound, a stab wound, something like that. Now, this box of butterfly bandages that I duct taped back together And in it are both butterfly bandages and a bunch of Band-Aids. And this is what I use more than anything else in this first aid kit. By far. These are just a pack of non-sterile Nitrile Gloves. I got them at the checkout counter at Menards. There's 10 pair of gloves in this little thing. So, that's great to have around. I've used gloves out of first aid kits before when I was volunteering stuff for Boy Scout camp, and there's a bunch of poison ivy in a place where kids were going to walk through it. I could just pull the gloves out of the first aid kit, yank the poison ivy out, throw the poison ivy and gloves away. That's the pack carrying 10. Gives you plenty to do anything you need to do, both as first aid or preventative. So use them to keep me from getting poison ivy. And then having 10 means that if I use them, use a pair or two, I'm not out of gloves. And they take up, that's tiny. Here's some Celox Rapid Gauze. It's kind of like Quick Clot, but Celox brand works on people on blood thinners. So in like a military situation, Quick Clot is really awesome. Civilian situations where you might deal with old people, elderly people, people who are sick, and other people that were on blood clots. Like April, my first wife that passed away, she had a lot of blood clotting issues and was on blood thinners. So she would carry Celox around in her purse because she was on such powerful blood thinners. And this is great for wound packing, or you can put it on a severe wound that doesn't need wound pack to stop the bleeding. I used it on a friend of my aunt's who cut his head real bad. While they took him to the hospital, get checked out for the concussion. We really didn't need this, but it was getting near its expiration date, and I didn't want him to bleed all over the inside of their car. Pair of full-size shears. These are just Menards brand shears. They don't have to be fancy. I'd love a pair of the Leatherman Raptors, but they're too expensive and too bulky. And I don't use the shears enough to justify the price. These cheap shears will still cut through anything you need to cut through, but pretty much one first aid instance and they're done. You gotta pitch them. But they'll be covered in blood, and you don't want to try to sterilize them and clean them anyway. And then the last thing is something I would never use, but I bought them because they're cheap. It's a 14 gauge needle with a one-way valve in it. It's designed to treat tension pneumothoraxes, which is one of the top 3 causes of death. Loss of airway and massive bleeding are the other 2. So choking and bleeding. 3 preventable causes of death are bleeding, choking, or being in a car wreck and having your face smashed by the steering wheel, stuff like that. The other one is a tension pneumothorax, but 99.999% of the time, you will never need this, even if you're trained to use it. Even on the ambulance, they won't need this because they can get them to the hospital and get them treated correctly with chest tubes long before they need this. The only reason I carry these is because they were so cheap, they don't take up much room, and while I'm not trained on doing this, if I'm in a situation where I need one, I can hand it to a doctor or something like that that might be there, or an EMT that's trained on how to use it. And on top of that, the needle can be used just as a needle for digging out splinters or anything like that out of a wound. So for the price, it was worth it. So that's what I carry in this everyday carry bag, and then also our first aid kit. And then also in my everyday carry bag, I carry this little pill container that Sarah got. It just has some allergy medicine, some Imodium, and then the my vitamins, and that's basically it. Some over-the-counter painkillers for people that works on. You can throw that in here. The reason that Imodium goes in a first aid kit like this is you can throw it in your bag if you go backpacking or camping, but the number 1 cause of death after emergencies, and the number 1 cause of death worldwide, is dehydration due to diarrhea from drinking contaminated water. So this is the big bear fact from Rescue Medical. I really like Bear Independence YouTube channel. You might want to go check that out when you're done watching this video. Make sure you finish watching this one. I don't know why the video just cut out, but so this is the Big Bear Fact. One of the things Refuge Medical does is they give a part of this, the proceeds for every one of these, to Caleb House, which is a charity that they partner with, partially run, that helps children of sex trafficking. So these kits are a little expensive, but part of the proceeds go to that. They're entirely handmade in America. All the components are American made, and the cases and kits themselves are American made. And Refuge Medical, the people that run Refuge Medical also run Grindstone Ministries, which does the stuff with Caleb House I just mentioned. Plus they go in and do disaster relief stuff. And while they're feeding people, they also bring the word of God to them and teach them the gospel. So instead of taking money from their donations to their charity to run their charity, they do first aid kits and first aid training, and the money they make from that pays their family, or pays the employee's salary, and then they can run the charity full time without taking any money, any charitable donations to provide salaries for the people running the charity. So it's really cool, unlike the Red Cross. So this got this big beefy Velcro. Oh, it's got two molly straps here, so you can molly it to the side of your plate carrier or to a backpack or something like that. Big handle, or big Velcro, big handle to rip it open with. It's easier when it's attached to something to rip it open. Big red handle on the inside to pull the liner out, so this can stay attached to you. You can pull this out to get to where you can work on it. Big red Velcro here that opens it up. Now this one is not, we don't have it all staged yet, but so some medical tape, which there should be two things that I just noticed is missing out of this one that should be in here that I don't know what happened to it. And as soon as this video is over, I'm going to go put them back in. Some medical tape and a couple of lifesavers for people who have diabetic problems. That's why I don't have the lifesavers in here, is because I gave them to some people that needed them. But the lifesavers, they don't smash too easily, and they're not affected by heat. And yes, the glucose gel stuff that diabetics carry is much better, but those packages are way too big for this first aid kit, and if you're diabetic, you should carry that, not rely on me to carry it for you. Like, Sarah needs to get some, put them in her everyday carry bag and her purse and stuff. But anyway, back to the bear fact. So a tourniquet, again, this is a North American Rescue Cat T. We're going to get a holder so the tourniquet's set on the side, so we can have a little bit more room for a couple other items in here. A nose hose, that helps with loss of airway, and I bought one and I don't know what happened to it, but one should be in here as well. That's something I need to add to this first aid kit. Which reminds me, go through your first aid kits on occasion and check expiration dates and make sure everything's still in there. We got some gauze, some full-size chest seals, more gauze, some burn treatment stuff. And I recommend this kit being like a car. Some big North American Rescue shears, which are much better than the Menards brand shears, but 6 to 1, half dozen. It doesn't matter. The big full-size 6 inches Rayleigh Bandage. It has a Sharpie for writing on people. This is one thing I think this first aid kit is lacking in, is it only comes with 1 pair of gloves. Tape I already mentioned. And then in here we have the trauma pack, and you can buy these separately from what is it? Refuge Medical. I forgot the name of the company already. Even though I think they're the best first aid kit on the company on the planet. A Mylar space blanket, which I'm going to eventually put one in my everyday carry bag because there's just not enough room in here. When people start to cool off, go into shock, anything like that, their blood takes a lot longer to clot. So keeping their temperature up helps. Oh, and the Sharpies for writing on people. Duct tape, because duct tape sticks to about anything. Blood, sweat, tears. Compressed gauze. I mean, look at that. Listen to that. You can almost drive a nail with that stuff. It's so dense and compressed and vacuum sealed. Those things, I've opened them before. They're about that much gauze inside of this little guy. This is a little eye doodad thing. So if somebody has a problem with their eye, you can put this over their eye, wrap up their eye till you get to the hospital. Make sure you wrap up both eyes, so when the good eye is moving, it doesn't make the bad eye that's bulging out or has a nail sticking out of it move. iPads, and I don't mean the ones Apple makes. Just some gauze for wiping up, treating blood. Antiseptic towelettes for cleaning wounds. Triangle bandage. This is used for holding gauze in place, making splints with them. You can make slings, all kinds of stuff you can make with a triangle bandage. More rolled gauze. More gauze. An absorbent pad, which is basically a gauze that sucks up a bunch of blood, kind of like a maxi pad. And then Quick Clot, which again, I prefer the Celox to the Quick Clot. Good job, Thomas. Thomas is showing me his homework while I'm filming the video. I prefer the Celox to the Quick Clot, so if you're making your own, get Celox, but Quick Clot works really well. And that's the bare fact, and that's all. And like I said, I'll probably make a video going into detail on how to use different first aid items and how to, and all my EDC, my everyday carry on my body and my bag. Now, I used to be, when I was in the Air National Guard, a first aid instructor. I'm no longer qualified to instruct first aid and that kind of stuff. So anything that I teach you or talk about, make sure you go get the proper training. Watching YouTube videos is not proper training. Being trained by a professionally trained trainer is proper training. No matter how good the trainer is, like some of the awesome other guys on like Prep Medic, and I can't, Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, there's a whole bunch of first aid prepper YouTube channels. They're all great. They're great supplemental videos to keep you refreshed, but you really want to get trained on first aid by a qualified, certified trainer, or like a paramedic or a doctor, or somebody who really knows what they're doing. So I encourage everybody to buy, get one of these small first aid kits that easy to carry. Get a first aid kit that you can carry in your pocket. Some people just carry a tourniquet, some Quick Clot, and an Rayleigh Bandage in their cargo pocket. Something you should have first aid able to treat. I'd say treat everything from paper cuts to gunshots. Get one of these big first aid kits, throw in your car, because you never know when you're going to run across somebody who car crash, and you might save somebody's life. But also make sure you go out and get training. Red Cross, if you can get a handful of your friends together, or your church, or your Elks Club, or whatever, the American Red Cross will come in and do training for cheap, maybe even for free. Training is just as important as having the kit. But I'm not going to ramble on anymore. You guys get the idea. So thank you for watching, and remember, we, his servants, will start rebuilding.